Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are hitting a massive milestone in our journey. It is day 19, and we are talking all about browser automation. So let me ask you this. What if your browser could literally do your work for you? I mean, think about it. If you've ever felt totally bogged down by that endless loop of clicking, scrolling, and copy-pasting just to gather data, imagine if all that soul-crushing busy work was just handled entirely on your behalf while you sit back and focus on the actual high-level strategy. What if your browser stopped being just a passive window you stare through and started acting like an active, tireless assistant? That is exactly why today's material is an absolute game changer. We aren't just talking theory here, folks. We are unlocking hours of your week and taking your time back. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. Today, we're mastering 3 core concepts: browser tools, automation, and scraping. And then we're going to combine all 3 of those to build our final project, a fully functional research agent. All right, let's lay down the technical foundation with Pillar 1, browser tools. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this completely redefines something you already use every single day. Browser tools are essentially instruments and capabilities used to interact with and control web pages programmatically. So instead of moving a physical mouse to click a button on your screen, you're using tools and scripts to send a direct signal to the browser. You're interacting directly with the website's underlying code. These tools are the foundational building blocks for everything else we're going to do today. Think of them as your programmatic hands that can fill out forms, execute JavaScript, open new tabs, and navigate through the absolute maze of any web environment you target. Once you have those programmatic hands ready, well, we need to actually put them in motion, right? And that brings us to Pillar 2, automation. Automation is simply the process of setting up sequences to execute tasks independently, without manual human intervention. Basically, you are choreographing a super precise set of instructions for your browser tools to follow. You tell the system, hey, first, go to this URL. Second, wait for the page to fully load. Third, target the search bar. And fourth, type in the specific query. Automation takes that exact sequence and executes it flawlessly, at lightning speed, totally independent of your physical input. It never gets tired, it doesn't get distracted, and it absolutely never makes a typo. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive shift in how we can approach our daily workflows. Because let's face it, traditional manual browsing is incredibly time-consuming and deeply, deeply repetitive. It demands your constant attention. But browser automation, that is a completely different paradigm. It is fast, self-executing, and honestly, ruthlessly efficient. By moving from manual inputs to programmatic sequences, you fundamentally change the return on investment of your time. You let the machine handle the repetitive, boring mechanics so your human brain can do what it does best: focus on analysis and creativity. So we have the tools to interact, and we have the automation sequence to run them. Now for the real payload. Pillar 3, scraping. Scraping is the automated extraction of data and information directly from websites. Imagine your automated sequence lands on a page just packed with valuable info. Say you're navigating a real estate portal to find property prices in a specific zip code. Well, scraping is the process of grabbing that exact, specific data and pulling it straight out of the code. It strips away all the formatting, the annoying ads, the visual noise, and hands you exactly the raw information you asked for, cleanly exporting it right into a neatly organized file ready for your analysis. It really is the ultimate data gathering mechanism. So the crucial point here is that none of these concepts exist in a vacuum. They are 3 interlocking pieces that create this perfect, seamless handoff. The browser tools basically open the door and interact with the environment. The automation sequence actually walks through the house and handles the navigation. And the scraper? The scraper grabs the valuables to bring back to you. You need the tools to navigate, the automation to do it efficiently, and the scraping to actually make the whole journey worthwhile. When you snap these 3 pieces together, boom, you have a complete end-to-end system.
And this is exactly where we transition from theory to real-world application, the ultimate synthesis, the project.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our final objective for the day. First, we deploy our browser tools to establish that programmatic control over the web environment. With that control locked in, we engage our automation scripts to sequence our commands and just let them run entirely in the background. As that automated journey hits its targets, we execute scraping to pull the exact data we need. And finally, all of those fluid actions seamlessly feed in to empower our final creation, the research agent. By combining browser tools, automation, and scraping, we're building a unified automated entity capable of conducting deep, comprehensive research entirely on its own. Literally, imagine giving your newly built research agent a topic, and while you go grab a cup of coffee, it spins up a hidden browser, navigates to a dozen different databases, bypasses all the visual noise, scrapes the most relevant stats, and compiles the whole shebang into a single, clean document for your review. It is your own personal, tireless research assistant, born from those three fundamental pillars we just explored. This brings us to a close for today's explainer, but really, this is just the beginning of what you can build. Now that you have a research agent, what will you uncover? Because you now understand the blueprint for taking manual, tedious tasks and turning them into automated data-gathering powerhouses. The old constraints on your ability to gather information, they've just been completely lifted. So I leave you with this final thought. What massive projects, what deep dives, and what hidden insights will you finally pursue now that the internet is working for you instead of the other way around? Thanks so much for joining me today, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what you build